Good afternoon, and on behalf of Norm's family, I welcome everyone, friends, extended family here. My name is Letha Hawkey, and I'm a longtime friend of Tina's, maybe longer than we want to admit, and I refuse to say old friend. So, we're here this afternoon to celebrate the life of Norman Sorenson. I will be reading remembrances that the family has written and asked me to read. Then after that, there are several other people who have asked to say something briefly and share a memory. And then after that, and people have given their memories, then we'll finish the desserts and the beverages and stay. We have to be out of here, though.
Yeah, by 4.
By 4. Okay. Okay. So thank you. This time is being videotaped, so there's no need to take notes. I'd like to begin this afternoon by reading Norm's obituary. Norm Sorenson, age 76, of Germantown, passed away on April 11. He was born February 21st, 1949, to Bernard and Mary Ellen Sorenson, and grew up in Brooklyn, Wisconsin, graduating from Oregon High School in 1967. His education continued at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, where he received a BS in political science. Norm is survived by his wife of 53 years, Tina Burkhart, son Bradley and his wife Patricia, daughter Jennifer, and her spouse Jason, 4 granddaughters and 1 grandson. Norm passed away on April 11th, 2025 during a medical procedure. He began his career in law enforcement in Plymouth, Wisconsin, processing from patrol officer to sergeant to chief of police. He later worked for 15 years as public defender in Milwaukee until his retirement in 2011. Among his many passions were photography, oil painting, traveling domestic and abroad. Norm and Tina visited national parks and toured more than 20 countries. Norm was a valued docent volunteer at the Milwaukee County Zoo for 13 years, accumulating over 7,500 hours. His outgoing nature and knowledge endeared him to the visitors and students alike. He also gave demonstrations at the Schlitz Audubon Nature Center. His greatest passion was spending time with family, especially his children and grandchildren, and he was so proud of their many accomplishments. In lieu of flowers, memorials are suggested to the Zoological Society of Milwaukee. Rest in peace, Norm. We love you. Looking out on this gathering, I was reminded of a short poem that I've used in the past, but I think it is very appropriate now. Not how did he die, but how did he live? Not what did he gain, but what did he give? These are the units to measure the worth of a man as a man, regardless of birth. Nor what was his church, nor what was his creed, but had he befriended those really in need? Was he ever ready with words of good cheer to bring back a smile, to banish a tear? Not what did the sketch in the newspaper say, but how many were sorry when he passed away. First, I'd like to read what Tina had written. Tina and the children and grandchildren have all written some remembrances. Some are more wordy than others. But, and when I read Tina's, she didn't hit all the points, we'd be here all day, but I think she hit a couple of the high points. My memories of Norm. One early June night in Madison in 1968, when I found myself without a ride home from work, I met a nice guy at the time clock who was headed my way. We decided to stop on the way for a piece of pie, and we just clicked. After 2 graduations a few years later, there was a wedding, and then a move to Plymouth, where Norm started work as a patrolman for the Plymouth Police Department. Then we waited, not too patiently, for Brad and Jenny to arrive in 1978. As an only child whose parents were both only children, Norm learned early on to entertain himself, relying on his creative abilities and use his imagination. This spurred him to pursue his many passions, especially after retirement allowed the time to expand his interests. He was a loving husband and dad, a good friend, an adept home remodeler and handyman, and a great cop. He loved camping, cross-country, and downhill skiing, and his job. He definitely had the gift of gab, which is no surprise to those of you who knew him. He was instrumental in unionizing the Plymouth Police Department, was promoted to sergeant, and later became chief of police, where he was chosen based on his visions to improve and modernize the department. After more than 40 years, he left and began working for what he fondly called the dark side, aka Milwaukee Public Defender's Office. He loved getting back to actual investigations and interviewing. Once the kids were in school, much of our free time had been spent watching t-ball, soccer, football, and of course, basketball. In fact, we were still at it when he left us. But now we were hooked on watching the grandkids, often on streaming services, but there were many road trips ahead. He was always the greatest and often the loudest cheerleader and armchair coach. After retiring, he devoted himself to volunteering and became an expert photographer, painter, and animal expert. If you spent any amount of time with him, you would know at least a few animal facts, especially about snakes and the Milwaukee County Zoo animals. He was set to return to Africa for the third and probably the last time, 13 days after he passed, on April 24th. We were able to send some ashes along with his friends, and they scattered them in Kenya at a campsite at an elephant orphanage. The group saw an unusual sighting of a snake and knew he would approve. I'm sure he was smiling when he saw that. When I tried to pin down a memory that always makes me laugh, it wasn't easy. I settled on one that took me a while to really appreciate. It was our first independent trip to Europe. We decided on Germany because Norm had studied German in high school and my heritage was German. After a long day of sightseeing in Berlin, we headed to the S-Bahn, the subway. Norm studied the route and we hopped on, noting that there was plenty of room in the car. A few passengers got off, then a few more, and finally we were the only ones left. Then we slowed down and finally stopped. The doors didn't open, and then the tunnel lights went out. I was alarmed, and I told him that I really had to. He laughed until we discovered that the doors were locked, and I reminded him that this is how a horror movie starts. After a few frightening minutes, some man knocked on the window. As we jumped out of our seats, he shined a flashlight on us and said, "Oh, you're Americans, right?" We had hopped on at the end of the run. He was very nice and started up the engine to take us back to the nearest stop. Norm sheepishly told me later that his German teacher had begged him after his first year not to sign up for class the following. He lived such a full life, and I'm grateful to have shared it, so much of it, with him. Tina. And Jenny writes, if you ever wondered who my biggest fan was, you didn't have to look far. It was my dad. On the bleachers, probably yelling at the ref, in a loving, constructive way, of course. Whether it was my games or his granddaughters, he never missed a chance to cheer us on. He took his role as basketball dad very seriously. So seriously, in fact, that he built a library of VHS tapes with training videos. We're talking footwork drills, shooting forms, defensive stances, you name it. If anyone's still got a working VCR and wants to reach Division I status, see Tina after. I have early morning memories going fishing with him. I may not have appreciated being up before the sun back then, but looking back, those quiet mornings on the water were some of the best times we shared. Holidays weren't just dates on the calendar, they were events. Whether it was Thanksgiving, Christmas, a birthday, he wanted everyone there under one roof, eating way too much food and making noise together. My dad had a big heart, a stubborn streak, which I may not have inherited, and a love that showed up in all the little things, from rewinding those old tapes for the 100th time to waking me up before dawn to teach me that life, like fishing, takes patience. I miss him every day, but his voice still echoes in the stands, his laughter still fills our memories, and yes, his VHS collection lives on. And from Jenny's 3 girls, Addison. Today we're here to celebrate my grandpa. He was my biggest supporter, especially when it came to basketball. He made it to every game he could and always had words of encouragement, even when I didn't play my best. I also have so many memories of going to the playground with him and my sisters. He would pretend to be a monster, and we'd try our best to avoid getting tagged. Those moments were filled with so much laughter and pure joy. Another sweet memory I have is how he would make me fake money so they could pay me to make Grandma and him breakfast. I always remember feeling so proud, and I felt so cool. His love, laughter, and how he always believed in me will continue to stick with me forever. I love you, Grandpa. And from Alyssa. In the time since my grandpa passed, I've come to realize how lucky I was to have a person like him in my life. His larger-than-life personality brightened every room, and wherever he went, laughter was almost guaranteed to follow. He wasn't afraid to speak his mind, and I could always count on him for a meaningful, candid conversation. One of my favorite things about Grandpa was his passion. Whether it was the zoo, wildlife center, painting, photography, or supporting his grandkids, in all we do, he poured his whole soul into them all. I remember going to the zoo with him as a kid and asking him questions about all the animals because I knew that he loved to share his knowledge with me. His face always lit up, and it made me proud to have a grandpa who was as knowledgeable and enthusiastic as he was. I also love going over all the pictures and stories of his and my grandma's travels. He always took amazing photos, and seeing the world through his camera lens was always special to me. His Africa trips were my favorite, not only because of the sights and the animals he saw, but because it was his favorite too. Seeing his photos turned into painting was also special to me. Every time I visit and see a new one on the mantle in my grandparents' living room, I remember thinking how lucky I was to have a grandpa as talented as he was. I love showing people his Christmas card paintings and being able to say that he painted them himself. I thought the reaction gave him the recognition and praise that he deserved. It made me proud to be his granddaughter. But I think most of all, I love seeing him in the stands, continuously supporting me in my athletic career throughout the entirety of my life. The best part of him being there was how, after the games were finished, he'd wrap me up in big bear hugs. Each time, without fail, they made me feel loved and reassured in the fact that no matter how the game went, good or bad, he was proud of me. He never forgot to whisper in my ear during those hugs. I'll never forget that. He and Grandma traveled great lengths to attend my games, and nothing brought me greater joy than knowing I'd get to see them afterwards. I took his presence for granted, and my final 2 seasons in college basketball won't be the same without him being there to cheer me on. Although my time with him was cut short, I'm so grateful for the time we had and for the memories we were able to make. I hope I can continue to make him proud and live my life fully as he did. And from Anna. When I was asked to write a paper about my memories I had of Grandpa, I couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that he was gone and was never coming back. My grandpa was my best friend, my biggest supporter, and everyone in this room can agree that he was a ray of sunshine that lit up whatever room he walked into. Since I was a little girl, he had always been by my side. I remember coming over in the summer with my sisters and spending a week at my grandpa and grandma's. He would have so much fun doing the many cool things, from water gun fights to sitting on his lap while he mowed the lawn, to trip to the splash pad and playing tag on the playground, where he pretended to be a monster trying to get me. I would scream and laugh until I almost peed my pants. Something that I loved about my grandpa was how passionate he was about everything he did. He was extremely passionate about painting and so amazing at it. Being able to look at his artwork brings me peace and happiness, knowing his hard work is so beautiful. My grandpa also loved the zoo. He had this ability to talk for hours about whatever animal you asked him about, and although he could talk for hours, and sometimes I got lost in his talks, I would do anything to be able to hear him talk so excitedly about the snakes or the lions that he got to work with any day. Although there's so many more things I could go on about that he was passionate about, the one that meant the most to me was his family and the sport of basketball. My grandpa always put his family first. Throughout his life, he worked so hard so that he could provide for his loved ones. He always showed up and never made excuses. I remember all the times he would drive far to some of my travel basketball games and high school games to watch me play. He cheered so loud, I didn't notice. Who didn't? The game I scored my 1,000th point is the night I will never forget, because he and Grandma were my biggest cheerleaders, holding up that 1,000 point sign and seeing them smile with tears of joy. After every basketball game that my grandpa was able to come to, he would give me the after-game talks. He would hug me tight and let me know what I could improve on, what I did very well, and always how proud he was of me. After some games, when I didn't think I performed well, I used to dislike the after-game lectures, but I would do anything to just have one more. I love how much support my grandpa gave me. The night that I received the news that I won Miss Basketball, my grandpa and grandma were right there with me, by my side. This was a huge goal of mine, and I know that my grandpa wanted nothing more for me than to see me achieve my goals. I remember having tears in my eyes after I was told the news I won, and I ran and gave everyone in the room a big hug, especially my grandpa, who I held on to a little tighter and longer. And he told me how proud he was of me and how much he loved me. I would have hugged him longer if I would have known that was the last time I would get a hug. Together, my grandpa and I have so many great memories, and I plan on remembering those for the rest of my life and telling my kids one day. My grandpa passed away before he even got to see me succeed in life and make him proud, and that kills me every day. I wish my grandpa could have watched me walk across the stage on my graduation night, or the fact that he won't be able to watch me live out both his and my dream of playing college basketball at the next level. Every time something big happens, I want to tell my grandpa. Things have started to get easier for me, but they will never be the same. My grandpa has left such a big impact on my life, and I wish I could have told him that while he was still here. I will never stop trying as hard as I can for the rest of my life to live in the footsteps of him and to make sure everyone knows how amazing my grandpa was. He was truly my first ever best friend. I promise myself to continue to work my butt off and continue to push myself to make him proud. Everything I do from now on will be for him, in his honor. I love that he shared with me. What he shared with me has made me into such an incredible young lady. I can't wait to be reunited with my grandpa. I love him so much. He was taken away from us too soon. I know you are in a better place, so rest easy up there, Grandpa. I love you endlessly. You are forever in our hearts. He was always there for Jenny and me as our father. His presence in our lives was a constant source of support and encouragement. My father was a caring and helpful individual who always made time for us. He supported our hobbies and interests, practiced sports with us, and even videotaped my basketball and football games. He never missed an opportunity to show his support, always eager to take us to our activities. When he was around others, including our friends, he treated everyone with sincerity and respect. He had a unique ability to make people feel appreciated and valued, often sharing his viewpoint and adding humor to the conversation. His genuine nature and warmth left a lasting impression on everyone he met, including many of my friends. As I grew older, I began to realize how much more there was to my father than I had known growing up. I learned about many of his past experiences on the police force during our long car rides to the Indianapolis 500 and F1 races. His passion for photography and painting became evident as he honed his skills and traveled abroad to capture the beauty of the world through his art. His commitment to volunteering at the Milwaukee County Zoo and Schlitz Audubon to educate others was truly inspiring. It meant so much to me to see how he and my son Blake bonded over their shared love of animals. Seeing his involvement with his grandchildren, Blake and Rhea, I feel truly blessed for how he committed himself to attending their events. It wasn't always easy for him with his commitments to the zoo and the Schlitz Audubon, but he would always find ways to be present in their lives. While I may never fully master all my father's skills, I've learned so much from him. His ability to connect with others through listening and making them feel valued is something I strive to emulate every day. His legacy lives on in the lessons he taught me and the love he shared with all of us. One of my favorite memories with my dad was when we embarked on a chaotic trip to Minnesota during my sophomore year to watch my sister's basketball team. My dad, being the trooper that he was, drove all the way to Whitewater, Wisconsin to pick me up from school, which was completely out of the way. Then we hit the road for what felt like a never-ending 6-hour journey up north to watch our team play against Minnesota Duluth. After the game, we found ourselves in the middle of nowhere with nothing to do, so we decided to head to Bemidji, Minnesota, ahead of schedule to check out the casino at the reservation and grab some beer. The next day, we went to see Jenny's team play at Bemidji State University, and once again, we realized there was absolutely nothing to do up there after the game. The girls on the team were all swooning over Leonardo DiCaprio and desperately wanted to see the movie Titanic. So in true dad fashion, we squished the entire team into the back of his van and drove them out of town to the nearest theater. While the movie might have been entertaining, my dad was rolling his eyes and grumbling all the 15-minute drive back to the team's hotel. Meanwhile, we listened to my sister's team tearing up and crying from the movie's ending for the entire 15-minute drive. That pretty much sums up my relationship with my dad. He was always up for anything and fun to be around. with heartfelt gratitude from Brad. And from Jenny's spouse, Jason, this little note. It's Chizzy's. When I started thinking about what to say today, there were so many memories of Norm that came to mind. One of the first that stood out was watching him at Jenny's college basketball games. He always sat mid-court with the other Michigan Tech dads, proudly cheering her on. I can still hear him yelling, "Work her, work her," whenever Jenny's teammates were defending the opposing point guard. He was a loyal fan, full of pride and joy, especially when it came to his family. I remember my first visit to Plymouth. That's when I was introduced to brandy old fashions at the local supper club, Chizzy's. Though in true Norm fashion, I misremembered the name as Cheesy's, and it stuck as a family joke from the moment on. After Norm passed, we returned to Chizzy's and raised one glass to honor him. Over time, the drink shifted from brandy to Irish whiskey. Norm had a very specific way he liked it, and he explained it in detail many times, how it should be done. I always tried it his way, even if I didn't share quite the same passion. But that was Norm, always ready to enjoy a cocktail, surrounded by friends and family, sharing stories and laughter. One of my favorite images of him is wrestling and goofing around with his grandkids. He loved to tease them, just enough to get them to jump all over him. He truly cherished his time with them and never passed up a moment to play, laugh, and be present. In closing, I may not sit mid-court and yell, "Worker!" but I'll think of Norm every time I'm at a game. I'll raise my glass with an old-fashioned or a shot of Irish whiskey and toast to the man who meant so much to us. And when I become a grandpa, I'll remember the way Norm lit up when he was with his grandkids, and I'll wrestle and laugh with mine, just like he did. We love you, Norm, always. And this remembrance from Brad's spouse, Tricia. So many wonderful memories. When Tina and Norm would come over for a visit, the kids would be looking out of the window and waiting at the front door to see if the car was in the driveway yet. They would get so excited to spend time with him. We had many great times at the zoo and the Schlitz Audubon, where Norm would tell us all, and I mean all, the interesting facts about the animals. He was the best guide and expert, sharing his knowledge with everyone, even on his days off of volunteering. He was like a dad to me, and we shared a passion for travel, animals, Africa, and the police mystery TV shows. Anywhere we went, we would make new friends with strangers, talking and smiling. He was typically joking around a lot, making us laugh. He had such a fun, outgoing personality. It could talk your ear off for hours. Even when we were all exhausted and barely staying awake on a Saturday night, he would continue chatting with a new topic or some random fact. He was smart and funny, kind, a talented photographer, artist, and handyman. Norm had a huge heart and loved us all so much, especially the grandkids. He was always there for us and is dearly missed. And from his grandson Blake, who's 11. My grandpa was a very great person. I loved his way with animals, artistic skills, and his loving self. We had many fun times together, like when he taught me how to mow the lawn with the ride-on mower, or when we would go to the zoo. I miss him very much, and he changed me forever. And from granddaughter Rhea, age 6. I loved my grandpa wrestling with me, and that he was great. He gave me hugs, and he did a lot of things that were pretty great. He took care of the animals, and that's so good. I miss him a lot. I hope he is having a great time in heaven and is doing fun stuff. Well, he's the best. And that's a family. Immediate family. Sister, Priscilla. We have many fond memories of Norm. We had fun camping together at Hartman Creek. We celebrated many holidays together. Norm and Tina joined us on some of our winter stays in Florida. We admire Norm's creative talent. He was a great photographer and recorded our wonderful 80th birthday gatherings in 2022. He painted nature and animal scenes and created lovely Christmas cards. He was generous in his volunteer work at the Zoo and Audubon Center, and he was devoted to Tina, his children, and grandchildren. We miss him. And that's the end of my readings for the family's memories of Norm. I would like to say something together, and Norm has some nephews. David Lodwick, Otto Bishop, John Bishop, if you'd like to come forward. You can decide who's going to, you have to speak right into the mic. Give your name first.
Sure. So, my name's Otto Bischoff, and my mother, Phyllis Bischoff, asked me to share these words with you. She's sad that old age prevented her from making the trip to be here with you today. Thank you, Norm, for sharing the loves of your life. My dear sister Tina, and the beautiful family you created together, with all gathered here today. How best to honor and remember Norm, not only my brother-in-law, but a best friend responsible for some of the happiest, funniest moments in my life. An example is one hot summer morning when my grandson Alex and I visited from California. Norm interrupted sprinkling his flowers to turn his hose on Alex, Alyssa, Anna, and Addison as they raced around his backyard to avoid that water. Somehow, likely with his help, they, the children, got control of the hose and squirted him as he sought to evade them. We all laughed ourselves silly, and that happy roughhousing lives in memory. Norm brought people together, and even while living 1,500 miles apart, we were close, thanks to family visits and many telephone calls. Tina, Norm, and I visited Cuba for a charmed week when it first opened up for illegal tourism under Obama. We gloried in live music every noon and night and explored the island's history and culture. We three also traveled together with my sister Priscilla and her husband Charles in Portugal. The high points included listening to Fado and seeing Neolithic megaliths, similar to those at Stonehenge, amidst a lofty cork forest. Norm's major values, love of family and service to his world, both human and animal, guided his life. His passion for animals and volunteering at the Milwaukee Zoo enhanced the experiences of countless visitors. He thrilled to trips to study African wildlife, sharing his passion in zoo classes and in one-on-one encounters with the zoo's visitors. Alex and I remain grateful for our private tour of his most special place, apart from his home, of course. Thank you, Norm, for your love of family, life, and the world. And for myself, I'm going to say that Norm was a great inspiration to me, and I appreciate basically his ability to find out what he wanted to do, and then knowing that, which is already hard, he went out and just got it. He just went out and lived the life he wanted, and that's so awesome. And in the fact that he did that, he was able to shine what joy was inside of him outward and help many other people, to feel enthusiasm for the world, animal and others. And he's just such an inspiration. And to me, he gave me he touched me in the sense that I hope that I feel that inside me, that he kind of killed a little spark inside myself, and particular for animals. Not that I would pursue that necessarily, but it got me started to think about that and more, and I think it's really great. And I'm very happy to have such an uncle like him. Thank you very much.
My name is David Lodwig. I am Norm's nephew. My mom is Judy Lodwig, who is the sister of Tina and Priscilla and Phyllis. Storm and Norman. Thea Bischoff, who is John's daughter, brought that up to me as I was talking with her earlier, and I'm like, that didn't even come to my mind, but when she said that, it kind of stormed back memories of him. And looking at all the pictures and his paintings and his love for photography and hearing everything that we've heard today, I think we can agree that Norm lived a full life. He attacked everything voraciously, wanted to gain as much knowledge as possible, but not only that, to share it with other people and to do it in a kind way. I was talking with one of the volunteers who was holding the snakes out there, who was telling me that Norm was the snake guy. He loved the snakes. He loved to impart his knowledge and understanding of snakes to people, even those small children who maybe didn't want to touch a snake, or adults who were a little bit leery. And he had a way about him where he looked empathetically at them, and if you don't want to touch the snake, that's okay. This is the story that's being imparted to me an hour ago. And so he knew how to connect with people, and he knew how to treat people well. And he was a very selfless person. He sacrificed of himself for me and my brothers Jim and Mike when we were growing up. And so did Tina. They had the fortunate circumstance to have their first apartment right across the backyard from where we were living. And so for a lot of our growing up years, we didn't have a father. And both Norm and Tina helped us out tremendously and helped my mother out in raising us because she had to work full time. And, we were a little wild, a little rambunctious when we were growing up. Yeah, but we're very appreciative for everything that Norm did for us, fixing bike tires when we got flat tires. And I'll just share a couple of memories that I have about things that Norm did for me. Those of you who are as old as I am will remember that a Coke machine or a soda machine didn't have cans in it, it had bottles, right? And it had bottle caps on it. You had a little thing that you flipped the bottle cap on and it went down into a little reservoir. Well, when I was a kid, there was this, I don't know if it was Coke or what the company that was doing it. They had a thing where you would collect football teams, all the NFL football teams on them, and if you collected all of them, you would get a football. And I really wanted it, but there was no way I was going to buy enough Cokes to get all of the NFL football teams. So Norm, and he did this unbeknownst to me, and a lot of the things that he did, he would do quietly. He wasn't seeking the limelight for being a great person. He just was a great person. And he did these things from his heart, and that is a great quality to have in my mind. So anyways, he went to every one of the gas stations and places in town that had these Coke machines in them. And these were Coke bottles, right? So, you guys don't see that anymore. And he got the owners to open up those Coke machines and give him all of the bottle caps for a period of time, and collected enough so I could get that football. And so that was the kind of person he was. And, like I said, we got in a lot of trouble. Norm was in law enforcement, thank goodness for us, because I think, again, quietly behind the scenes, he helped us out quite a bit. Issues we may have been having as kids growing up, without a father. So, but he was there for us. I've always felt like Norm is a father to me. He was a father. He filled a void for me that was great. And it was not in a grandiose way. We went and played tennis together. And this was back in the day of John McEnroe and Bjorn Borg. Some of you may have seen footage of it, you younger people. And they wore, the headbands, the sweatbands, and the wristbands, right? So first time Norm and I went to play tennis, he's got all of that regalia on. And I think he was trying to get in shape, and he wanted to play me, and I was young. And he had you remember the old socks we wore that pulled up to the knee, and wearing his really tight shorts. But he would go out and we would play tennis together. And he did that, and I think he knew that we didn't have a father figure in our life, and he wanted to be there for us, and he did. And so, I was reading the card that we all got about Norm, and it says that as you remember him, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. And I have a lot of memories in my heart that are very positive about Norm, and I will carry it with me forever. So I would almost amend what this says. It's not over. All of us have memories in our hearts about things that Norm did selflessly for us, and we're going to carry that with us forever. So it's never really over, I don't think. And Norm will always have a special place in my heart for all the things that he did for me. And, the last thing I would say is there was a lot of talk about the gift of gab that Norm had. And we had many telephone conversations over the years, not as frequently as I would have hoped we could have had. And we had talked about getting together and having Norm and Tina come to Kansas City to spend some time with us, and then unfortunately he passed. But he was a great conversationalist. He knew a lot about a lot of stuff, and it was never superficial. It was always in-depth and great conversations. One of the smartest guys I've ever known in terms of, digging himself into a subject matter and really attacking it and understanding it, and then talking to other people about it. When we're on the phone, Tina's of course on the phone, on the speaker as well, and we're going on for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour and a half. And Tina's in the background a lot. Norm's doing most of the talking. And Tina's like, I think he's got to go. I think he's got to go. But they were great conversations, and I'll always remember that as well. And Norm had the uncanny ability, in my memory, to be able to give this big belly laugh, and while he was laughing, still continue to talk. And I don't know how he did that, but his laugh was full, and it was genuine, and I'll remember that about him as well. So, Norm, I'm going to carry you with me forever. I thank you for everything you did for me, and I hope he's done things for you that you guys will carry with yourself as well. Thank you.
We should have rehearsed. I should have done act or. Okay, so I'm Phyllis's son, so I'm Otto's little brother, and I'm actually here with my family from Minnesota, and I've learned a lot of things from Norm. One of the things that we've all learned, and you've heard a lot of it here today, and I promise I did not speak with anybody, including Dave, before this. So if you hear some themes, it's because it's real. And one of them is family. So I have the good luck of having married my lovely wife, Laura Dale. And so we also try to, family's a big thing for us. And we walk and we talk together pretty much every day. And this hit us all, like everybody else here, kind of like a thunderbolt out of the sky, and we've been trying to make sense of it. And so we've been remembering and discussing Norm and his positive impact on us and the family. And so she and I, well, she helped me kind of put together some of these words. So we distilled this down, and this is actually from our conversation, and she's such an intelligent person in the way that she can distill things down is amazing. So she just said, you know, Norm was about 5 things: kindness, generosity, curiosity, service, and humor. And so I'll just hit this really quick, but like kindness, so Norm was always there to make you feel at home. You heard that from everybody, right? And whether it was like a small gathering at home with Tina or a larger gathering, like even one like this, you know, he would always go out of his way to make sure that everybody felt welcome. In terms of generosity, Norm and Tina have always welcomed us into their home, and probably everybody here. So for me, you know, whether I was traveling across the country to start a new job, which has happened, or visiting in Plymouth or in Germantown, their house was a gathering place where they celebrated family and friends, us in this room. He was gracious and generous when visiting us, and he also, as you've heard, traveled with my mom. He actually, and Tina came out and like, I'm not living there, I'm living in Minnesota, and my brother Otto is living there, but there were times when she needed help, and Norm and Tina would make the trip out there to go and just help my mom, who's, by the way, the eldest of the 4 sisters, and they are amazing too, all 4 of them, and they're one of the reasons why we have such a strong family, I think, because they stuck together in tough times. You know, they had a single mom, and so we, you know, are still looking out for each other. So also curiosity. So Norm was intensely curious about animals in the natural world. We heard that a lot. He lived a rich, artistic, and inquiring life, constantly filled with learning and new ideas. I believe his curiosity was one reason he was so drawn to being an investigator on the job, in painting and photography and travel, as well as his other hobbies. Service. Norm's career as a police detective and then working with the older community members where he met Tina are just some examples of service. I've not met another couple that was more engaged in their children's and their children's children life, including their sporting, school, and family events. Norm continued service to his community through the Audubon Society here, where we're celebrating his life, but also the zoo. But his primary service, I feel, and I think I've heard it again this morning, this afternoon, has always been to his family and his friends. So finally, humor, and we've heard this too. You can't talk about Norm and not talk about this man's humor. So he had a laugh that Dave already mentioned. And this laugh, I mean, I just remember it greeting me no matter what the conversation was. I could be coming in there, I'm a professor at Minnesota, so I get a little hoity-toity sometimes, and Norm, you know, he'll just give me his laugh and cut me down to size whenever I come into the room. So it doesn't matter the weightiness of the conversation or the weightiness of the person, Norm would cut you down to size. And he also, you know, he'd go out of his way to stir the pot. Right? If things were getting a little bit dull, you could always rely on Norm to get things going. So in short, Norm was tremendous fun to be around and made us all feel better when we were there with him. So I just want to thank you for being you, Norm, and we love you. So, thank you.
Travis here? Travis? Oh, okay. Travis Clemens. Speak right now.
So first of all, I didn't know there was an option for someone else to read for me, so I'm trying to So first of all, a little bit about me. I'm Travis Clemens. I moved across the street from the Sorensons in 1983, and then became friends with Brad and Jenny, and eventually Brad's best friend. So when I think about Norm, one of the things I think about is a quote that came across my Facebook page the week that he passed away. It said, "Good people care about their own children, or great people care about other people's children." So when I grew up, we didn't have everything. My parents, they worked a lot. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't go on trips, but the Sorensons adopted me, essentially. I spent a lot of my time over upstairs in the playroom, playing with Jenny's dollhouse or Star Wars. They invited me over to dinners. We had sleepovers, and Norm taught me to play basketball. So from there, some of my greatest memories was, I think, goes back to Norm's conversion thing. Like, we went on basketball tournaments, we went to soccer games. I forgot, but I made a trip down to Brookfield to see his family and his parents down there. And they actually invited me to a family trip to Pelican Lake, which is one of my greatest memories. I got the nickname Lumpy from that trip, I don't know why. But what it meant was you were part of the family. So what I caught as a common theme here, I'm just reiterating what people have already said about Norm, is that he cares about people, right? And he could have easily just had me be a friend over, but he really made me feel like part of the family. So once I graduated from high school, Brad and Jenny went on to college. I took the long track and went to the military. And I didn't talk to Norm, I didn't talk to Tina until Brad's wedding, right? And when I got to the hotel room for Brad's wedding, here I see this guy, gray hair, long beard. I almost didn't recognize Norm. At the same time, I didn't have any hair, so I'm sure it's both ways. And we got to reconnect. And this is what I remember the most, is that was the time that I got to share my gratitude. I said, my journey through life doesn't happen without Norm. Him allowing me to be part of the family, me going to college, me playing sports in college, all that doesn't happen without Norm, without Brad, without Tina, without Jenny. And so, after that we talked about Africa. I had just gotten back from Africa, I spent the summer there. Norman says, "Hey, I'm going to Africa, let's share some notes." And then from there, every year after that, the wedding, I received his Christmas card with the paintings. And I also chatted with him on Facebook, because that was kind of the beginning of Facebook. But all this represents the footprint that Norm's left on my life. And I'll always have a big place in my heart for him. And be grateful for all the things that I've been able to do in my life because of his support. So, thank you.
Is this the one?
What?
Thank you, Travis. Harold Loomis, friend of Norm's.
Well, long time.
Yeah. None of you have heard of me before, I'm sure. Norman doesn't mention friends a lot. As friends, he mentions them as family. And after 70 years of knowing Norman, I feel like family. We met the summer before first grade. And for some odd reason, our friendship endured for 70 years. I didn't see Norm or Tina for quite a few years. Well, Brad and Jenny were growing, and that may have been a good thing. But we met again afterwards, after Norm had retired, and we traveled together. I had just gone to England with my sister, and God, Brad, don't do that. That's the one thing you and I haven't common. We spent 9 months close to a girl. And that's why I don't have this. But we traveled. I had seen Tina one other time before they retired. And I think if she knew what was coming down the road, she would have got her mother in the car and waited till the next day. She was in Sheboygan, waiting to put her mother on the bus. The bus came down the hill into Sheboygan, stopped, the door opened up, and who should appear but me? That's why I say, if she knew what was coming, she would have stuck around. But anyway, one thing I remember about Norman, when we were kids, and I'm sure if his father and mother were alive today, they'd swear Norman and I had AI. We would have what I would call misadventures. And one of them was when it was summertime, we were lighting firecrackers, which back then was illegal. Totally. The police showed up in our town. We only had one policeman, because we only had 490 people in the town. But he showed up, and I saw him. And when I turned to tell Norman the policeman was here, all I saw was his backside going up a 6-foot incline on the other side of the railroad tracks. I thought, the guy just stopped. He hadn't gotten out of his car yet. And I thought, well, I'm going to be smart. I was skinny, didn't weigh 100 pounds. I'll hide here in the bunks of vegetables. That's where the AI comes in, and other things that Norm and I got involved in. AI back then was not artificial. It was absent intelligence. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's the water in Brooklyn that creates these. Oh, Steve Sargent isn't here.
No, I don't think so. No, why they ask? I mean, I didn't
Okay.
see that.
Is Steve Sargent here? Okay. There's a couple people that couldn't make it because they couldn't
Underwater?
swim. So, Tom Finley from the Splits Audubon Society would like to say a few words. And then Beth Heller. Oh, okay. And then that'll be it.
Thank you. Tina, family, friends, thank you so much for your gift of Norm. It really is a special day for everyone here, and as a person who got a chance to meet Norm about 7, maybe 8 years ago, what a wonderful presence he brought to Schlitz. When you got a chance to see the snakes, those were snakes that Norm held and Norm worked with. And he shared that love, that passion, and that education with hundreds, probably thousands of other people. I mean, think about that. This is a wonderful, close family. And Norm was such a humble person to share his generous spirit, his intelligence with others, and he could connect with every single person and every age and every background. wonderful to have him with us on all of the different days that he came here. We had people calling on the phone, hey, is the snake guy going to be there today? Because that's going to be determining if I'm going to even show up to your nature center. If the snake guy's there, we're good. We have a really busy day for some event. Oh my gosh, do we have enough staff? Do we have enough volunteers? Yeah, we got Norm. Yeah, he's coming in. We're good. We're covered. Okay. It was great to, we came to rely on him. And his passion was evident when he worked with Piglet and Maria and Cooper and Elizabeth and every other snake. When I see that green shirt over there, if you haven't had a chance to see it, that's my image. That's our Audubon image of Norm, is that green shirt. That was Norm. We came up with that design years ago. And I didn't know exactly why. We love snakes, of course, and he's the champion of the disenfranchised. And that shirt really defined him, and he defined the role of nature ambassador. That's what we called it. It's a nature ambassador. And he shared that love with countless people. He didn't stop, though. He did know a lot, and he was very humble about his intelligence. He never made you feel dumb or anything like that. He was generous, and you felt like you were learning along with him, and he was learning with you. And he still would take classes with us. He enrolled in our Master Naturalist class. That's a 40-hour classroom commitment. There was field trips involved with it. There was a project, and Norm wanted to do this to get that extra certification and just have that much more knowledge and to share with people. So just want to say thank you to everyone in the family for your gift of Norm. We are always going to very fondly remember him, and we're glad he's part of our life still. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Beth.
And Beth.
Hello everyone, I am Beth Heller. I am the Vice President of Programs at the Zoo. So you've been hearing a lot about it, and you'll also hear some of those same themes. I am here attempting to represent thousands of people who are on staff, who are volunteers, who are interns, and probably millions of guests who he was able to connect to at the zoo. I want to really share my appreciation for Tina for giving me the opportunity to celebrate Norm and keep him present in our hearts today. So Norm started volunteering with Zoo Pride, that's the name of our volunteer program, in 2011. He spent about 13 years, if you subtract out the COVID closed time, dedicated to conservation education. You heard earlier that he contributed about 7,500 hours. That's approximately 10 hours a week for 13 years of volunteer time. He's enormously generous with his time. Last year, he volunteered more than any other single individual volunteer at the zoo. About 75% of his volunteer time is spent directly working with our kids within our education programs. He completed every single training that Tom was just talking about. He taught other volunteers how to help with the kids. He coached interns and sometimes even coached our staff on how to lead our education programs. But he had more than that to share. He was multi-talented. He helped us run our big events like Sue's at the Zoo, which, by the way, happened this weekend and they got very wet last night. Ride on the Wild Side, Samson Stop with the Zoo, etc. He conducted research. He did our bird count surveys with us and bumblebee counts. He was a leader coaching other volunteers and served as an advocate for practices around empathy for wildlife. He was equally proud of and engaged in being a bus flighting volunteer. That's where he guided up to 60, 70 buses into the parking lot so the kids could arrive and depart safely from the zoo each day. And to quote our summer camp leader, Sarah Witt, she says, "I admired how often Norm would be taking on a new hobby or skill and talking about what he was learning. He would often explain about how he used to paint every week for years, learning photography skills, or his goal to become a pro at snake knowledge. It reminded me, this is Sarah talking, it reminded me of how important it is to continue to be an active learner throughout life. Norm was doggedly curious. That's one of our themes that we heard earlier. In our staff lunchroom, we have a bulletin board with photos of our volunteers, and they have to answer a get-to-know-you question. His question was, what do you like to do on weekends? His answer, play with snakes. Surprise, surprise. So he developed a very close relationship with the curator of the Aquatic and Reptile Center, Sean Miller. So this quote is from Sean Miller. My first meeting with Norm was a bit more of an inquisition, with Norm challenging my knowledge and asking questions that he thought might stump me. One of the conversations that was ever evolving between Norm and Sean was about the application of snake venom to modern medicine. Sean says, I could always expect that if there was a new study or article, Norm will have beaten me to the punch and have a slew of questions at the ready. His inquisitiveness pushed me to delve deeper into subjects for which I only had surface knowledge. My deep dives would ultimately lead to deeper conversations with Norm about how something as terrifying as a snake bite can ultimately be as beneficial as a cure for a disease. Norm was doggedly curious, and the people around him all are better because of it. Norm was also boldly helpful. 4.5 years ago, I stepped into my role at the zoo, so I'm the newbie in this room in terms of relationship with Norm. During my onboarding, I was briefed on the opportunities and challenges I would face as I prepared to bring programs back from COVID. I knew that it would be critically important to solicit honest and open feedback from my new team so that collectively we could create the best path forward. So when I met Norm, I let him know he can share his ideas with me. And some of my team was a little bit shy about sharing feedback as the new boss. But not Norm. Norm would wait at my office at least once a week. Early on, I think it was probably closer to once a day, to make sure that he could share his feedback with me and share his ideas. He presented evidence. He presented examples of past successes so that he could back his recommendations. He was firm in his advice and clear in his opinions, but he was also very compassionate and kind. Every bit of advice was aimed at creating a better day for our staff, volunteers, interns, and of course, the children at the zoo. I took his advice to heart, and I believe that I'm a better leader because of it, and that our volunteer and education programs are better for it too. Norm was boldly helpful, even when you didn't know that you needed the help. My last theme is about creating family. And I did write this before being here today. Norm creates family. I was going to be here with my colleague Molly. She is surrounded by water and unable to swim here today. So I'm going to quote something from her. I asked her advice on how to prepare for today, and she said, I don't know exactly how to say this, but you need to share something about family. Not just Norm's immediate family, but how he cared for all of us and all of our families and created a broad family. He remembers the names of our spouses and children. He has consoled us, our staff, and our interns and volunteers when we've needed it. One staff in particular shared that his parent was really sick and Norm was enormously helpful to him. Another staff says Norm would often bring up how proud he was of his grandchildren, giving me a play-by-play of a basketball game he had watched that weekend, or the trip he took to be there in person. You could tell how much he loved being part of his family and making those memories. He also, still from the same person, he also gave me tips to make sure I knew all of the most important details if I ever went to the Indy 500. Her dad ended up going and through her said that he was very grateful for for Norm's advice. So he extended his care not only to the people he worked with each day at the zoo, but to their families. Norm created family and was a central part of our zoo family. So let's remember and celebrate Norm, a multi-talented, doggedly curious, boldly helpful, creator of family. We miss you, Norm. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who shared memories. It's impossible to pack 76 years into an hour and a little bit more. But Norm touched so many lives and so many people in so many ways. After the service, I invite you to stay and continue to share memories a little bit. There's some food left on the table.
I'll have plenty of food.
Oh, Gina says there's plenty of food. You can be here for another 45 minutes just starving yourself. So, with that, I'd like you, those who are able, please stand. Let us pray. Holy God, we thank you that you have made us in your image and blessed us with gifts and talents that we use to serve you. We thank you for the unique gifts of Norm. We thank you for the image of you which we saw in him, the love we received from him, and the memories that we share of him. May we be filled with strength and courage to entrust him into your hands. Comfort us in our grief as we entrust Norm to your eternal care. And now, may the peace of God, may the peace, the God of peace, give you peace at all times and in every way. Peace be with you all. Amen.
Amen.